Thank you for watching this Last Mile Profits video.
Are InPost the masters of lockers moving into home delivery? Keep watching to find out more.
Last Mile Profits is brought to you by Parcel Pending by Quadient.
Gary, we haven't talked about InPost for at least 3 or 4 episodes, but we have to this time because they've gone and done something again. There's 2 things that I'd like to cover with you today. One is their acquisition in Spain, which I think is pretty interesting, and that sort of gives them more competence, not just in their core area out of home, but into door delivery. And that dovetails in nicely to the second part of what I'd like to talk about. Are they moving towards door-to-door delivery, and is it the right thing?
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, you could regard it as consistent with the strategy from one point of view, which is go into a market, buy a carrier, put thousands of lockers down and become an end-to-end player, as opposed to Quadient's market of go into a market, put thousands of lockers down, open them up to everybody and be agnostic. So it is kind of consistent with that. And buying a carrier, they bought a French carrier, they are a Polish carrier, they bought a British carrier. But it would mean that I was completely wrong about what they would do with Yodel, or their view of what they'll do with Yodel in the UK is different to mine. That I thought they would stop home delivery and really focus on out of home and drive volume and profitability through that route. But it sounds like home delivery might be becoming part of their core rather than a sideshow.
Do you know what my view, Gary, is? I think they still are fundamentally out of home. And by the way, I still believe that that is the segment of the market that's going to be growing. And that's not because Quadient sponsor us, but I really firmly believe in that. I think, however, you need to offer a one-stop shop. You cannot really go out to large customers and say, okay, even if the market is 70% out of home, which it is in some cases now, you still need to cater for the remaining 30%. And I think it means that you're able to go to any large customer and say, look, we're a one-stop shop. We've got you covered. So I think that's one thing. Second thing, having capability in terms of to-door delivery means you also have capability to be even more effective with your out of home. So what do you think? What's your take on that?
I don't really buy any of that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think it's so expensive to do out of home that having it as a minority play just makes life worse for you. If you're all about driving density, which is what out of home is about, stop the van once, load 20, 50, or in Poland, 200 parcels into one locker and go. If you try to start blending that back in with home delivery, which is predominantly low density, even in a market in the UK where you've got very high average number of orders per person per year, it still only works. If you've got 100 million parcels, it still works out you only deliver to each street once a week, but you've got to drive down past every single house to make that delivery. So it's either or. And in terms of being a one-stop shop, my personal view is that's a disaster as well. That's a recipe for disaster because you end up pleasing nobody. I think focus on what you're specialised in and do that extremely well is more the strategy that I would pursue.
Well, I think we have to agree to disagree on this one, because if we look at the market where InPost is making more money than any other market and where they're more dominant than in any other market, which is Poland, they actually do have this one-stop shop. And as far as I understand, that was the strategy behind it. Number one, to be able to offer services to everyone. Number two, and you're absolutely right, in an urban area like Warsaw, you're not going to mix the routes. But sometimes you get places where you just don't have the volumes, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. So I think, Gary, I'm going to agree to disagree with you on that.
All right, so let me clarify. In terms of one-stop shop, I don't mean necessarily home and out of home, because I think that's a separate thing. I mean when you're trying to offer a low cost slow delivery, an economy style delivery, and you're trying to do next day, and you're trying to do international, and you're trying to do sub-kilo packets, and you're trying to do less than truckload, and you're trying to do pallets and all this. When you're basically trying to take everything out of that back of that DC and distribute it around the country, I think that's where I would question it. The organisations that I've seen really grow and succeed have taken a segment of that, whether it's split by weight band or something else, or speed. Weight or speed seems to be the 2 key differentiators, and really nail it. I get it. Whether you can successfully blend out of home and home delivery, we'll see, because you've got InPost moving in one direction from being predominantly out of home, moving towards a bit of home delivery. and you've got basically everybody else in the other boat where they're doing all their deliveries to home or have done, and they're gradually moving towards the mix in the opposite direction. I don't know what the optimum mix is. I guess we'll find out.
Well, just to add a bit to what you mentioned, because I think we're closer to agreeing now, Gary. What InPost actually have done is they've said, yeah, we want to give a one-stop shop, but in a certain size and weight of parcels. They don't take what we used to call big, heavy, ugly at DPD, small, sexy parcels, and it's working pretty well. And if you look, I don't know if you remember what the EBITDA is, but we're talking about 45% plus EBITDA in Poland.
Yeah.
Wow. But before we end today's vid, I wanted to just touch upon the Spanish story because I think it's really cool. It's a different model to what they've done in France, and the company sending it's effectively a broker or consolidator, depending upon how people like to call them. And I think it's quite clever because it gives them, as I understand it, but let's see if we agree to disagree or agree to agree on this one. It gives them a certain base of customers. It means that they're linked in and tied in with carriers that are complementary via that broker. And I think given there's nothing really easy to buy in Spain at the moment, carrier-wise, it's probably about the best they could have done. What's your take?
Yeah, I think so, because Spain is one of those markets where the national post is still fairly dominant. I think they've got 60+% of the parcel market, and then you've got DPD's brand Sur, with another big market share. So you're not going to be able to cleave those away from their owners. So there isn't an obvious, there isn't a yodel, hanging off a tree waiting to be picked up relatively cheaply. So I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a shrewd move, and it fits with their strategy. So question is, where next? If you're going to speculate, shall we go on the record and predict where the next InPost acquisition is going to be?
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Unless you're consulting for them, I want you to go first.
Well, actually, that's quite a good point. I think you should go first.
Yeah. So are they going to stick in Eastern Europe? Are they going to pick off many more of the major markets? So I'm going to go with Italy.
Well, I think that's an inspired choice of location, but I can't actually really comment, and I won't comment because I realise I'd be getting myself into hot water there. But look, please, dear viewers, if you have an idea where they will or they should go or they shouldn't go, please comment below. Again, Gary, I really enjoyed today. If everyone who's viewing this has enjoyed it, please click like and subscribe. It helps us keep these videos free for you. And Gary, looking forward to the next one. Probably not on InPost, at least for a while.